Hi, I'm Dale.
And I'm Mark.
And together we are the Fuji Guys. Today we're going to be talking about our most exciting product yet, the X-T2.
So we both love the X-T1 and the X Pro 2. And this camera not only combines the best bits of both of those, but it adds a whole lot more.
Let's dive straight in. Okay, Mark, so tell us about the most important feature with the camera, image quality.
Well, image quality comes down to a few things. The first thing is the sensor. So in the X-T2, it has the same sensor as the X Pro 2, which is the X-Trans CMOS 3 sensor. Now, X Pro 2 users, you know how well this resolves, you know how good quality this is. For X-T1 or other camera users, you're used to the 16 megapixel X-Trans CMOS 2 perhaps. This is 50% more pixels, but still low noise at very high ISOs. So it's a fantastic sensor. The second thing that factors into image quality is the processor. Now the processor doesn't just make the camera run faster, it also processes the images themselves.
That's a very important point. The reason a lot of people come to our system is not because of a specific lens or something like that. They're actually coming because of the color reproduction and the tonality of the images. Skin tones specifically is one that really stands out amongst portrait photographers, wedding photographers, and even street photographers as well. It's making it so that post-production to your images is becoming easier and less time consuming. And it just makes it a more enjoyable experience. If you can create an image without having to do anything else other than just enjoy taking it, then that's fantastic, and there's a massive benefit to the system.
And the very final thing, just to touch upon with image quality, is the lenses. And everyone out there already knows how good the Fujinon XF lenses are, custom made for the sensor, and this 24 megapixel in here is no different from the previous ones.
Yeah, superb. So Mark's used the X-T1 for motorsport, and now he's used the X-T2 for motorsport. How do these two cameras compare with each other?
Well, I love the X-T1, especially with firmware version 4. The tracking autofocus features that were added to it enable me to get some shots that as an amateur photographer I just wouldn't have been able to get if the camera wasn't doing the work for me. The X-T2 just took it to a whole new level. Like, the first thing I noticed was just how quickly it would lock on to a moving subject to start with. So that initial half press the shutter, it's there, it's got my little green box up and I'm ready to shoot. The second one was how well it would actually track the subject. So if the subject is moving towards me across the screen, I didn't have to worry. I could fully press the shutter, continue shooting, kicks in, and it would, every single shot, it's taking it and it's in focus each time. The third thing was the blackout time. So again, this was good for, say, panning, for example. So you're panning the shot and the actual blackout time between the frames was much, much reduced compared to what I was used to on the X-T1, which just allows me to keep the subject in the right place throughout the frame. And the final thing that was really, really noticeable was if you took a sequence of continuous shots, the write speed to the card, or maybe the buffer, I'm not sure, it just enabled me to take another sequence straight afterwards. So it's got dual UHS 2 cards, really, really noticeable that, the performance was just amazing.
Well, there you are. And something that we want to talk about is the AF modes. They've added in new AF modes to the X-T2 and they are fabulous. Let's have a look.
So here you see the AFC custom setting menu. So there's 6 different options in total. The first 5 are preset and the last one is a custom setting. So the first one is multi-purpose. This is basically the default setting for the X-T1. Option 2, you can set the camera to ignore obstacles and continue to track the subject. Option 3, you can have it for predicting where accelerating or decelerating subjects are going to be. Option 4, you can have it set for suddenly appearing subjects. Option 5 is for erratically moving and accelerating, decelerating subjects. And as mentioned before, option 6 is basically the custom mode. So each of those presets is made up from 3 different parameters. There's tracking sensitivity. Tracking sensitivity is simply the delay from when the camera loses sight of whatever it's locked onto before it tries to find a new subject. So set to 0, as soon as the subject moves out of the focus point, it will try and focus on whatever's closest within that focus point. And at 4, it will take a little time and it will have a little bit of a delay. So this is very useful for obstacles, getting in front of your subject. It doesn't switch them automatically. Speed tracking is just a way of predicting where a subject is going to be based on its acceleration and deceleration. For 0, you are telling the camera that the movement, this subject is very steady, and obviously for 2, you're telling it to be prepared for accelerating. And finally, for the zone area switching, what you're doing here is telling the camera whether it should prioritize the subject in the middle of the focus point or just anything that's closest to the camera that's within the focus area. This is obviously for zone focusing only. With these new options, autofocusing on subjects that are moving at different speeds and different acceleration rates should be much, much easier than it was on our previous cameras.
So let's talk about everything video. The X-T2 is the first camera that shoots 4K in our lineup, and something that I'm personally really excited for is the fact that just like our JPEGs, where people are buying into the cameras for the color reproduction, tonality and things like that, is actually going to be reproduced into the 4K shots as well. So if you're an enthusiast videographer and you just really want to start creating beautiful movies, then use the film simulation modes. Use the highlight tone, the shadow tone to really create the dynamic shot that you wanted without having to take it to color grading and all that sort of thing. It just means you can be creative straight away, straight out of the box. Really simple. For me, I love it. We use the X Pro 2s at the moment. I'm personally really excited to start using these.
And if you are more an advanced videographer, the camera is still good for you as well. It doesn't have to be left on these JPEG mode, so to speak. You have the RAW equivalent. So it will shoot log mode for a wider dynamic range of the sensor and also a wider color gamut. It has a HDMI out, so you can connect a recording device or a monitoring device and then actually record fully uncompressed. It has a headphone jack built into the grip and a microphone jack built into the body. It's essentially got everything you need for professional video shooting in this fantastically small body.
And there's one last point as well, actually. Something that really makes a big difference to me, and I'm sure it will to you guys out there as well, is that if you're using the manual focus peaking in still photography, and you've seen that working on our system, it now works in our videos too, while you're shooting. So if you're switching between two actors, it's going to make it really simple. And for me, I love that feature. Can't wait to use it on this camera.
For the last 5 years or so, we've had lots of feedback from photographers all over the world, from all different genres, of requests and wishes and features that they'd like to see in the Fujifilm cameras. We've tried to put as many as we can into the camera. So although the X-T2 looks just like the X-T1, there's actually a lot that's changed, more so than the features we've just explained, but actually just about the design of the camera. So Dale, tell us a couple of the things that you really like about this X-T2.
Sure. Well, my favourite one is the focus lever, without a doubt. Best feature to add to a camera. Now, it was on the X Pro 2 to start with, and I love the fact they brought it over to the T2. Main reason is that it just makes focusing so much quicker. You know, I don't do the focus and recompose thing. I've always moved the focus point around, so having the lever there just makes it so quick, and I never have to move. You know, I never have to divert my eye away to look where the buttons are, because it just sticks out just enough for my thumb pad to be able to find it and use it. And just a little added bonus, I suppose, is that on the other models where it didn't have a joystick, I would set the buttons to do that job for me. So now they can do other things like white balance, film simulation, all that kind of stuff. So I love that they're freed up as well. But it is really just about that tactile moving it about thing. The other feature that I love, when the screens first came out that tilted, I wasn't really sure if I'd use them because I always use a viewfinder. But then I changed my mind when I realized I didn't have to lie in the mud anymore, or the sand. So having it tilt was fantastic. But the thing that they've added on this that makes a big difference, if I can pull it out, there we are, is the portrait orientation that the screen now goes at. So portrait photographers that shoot from the hip, I'm sure it's going to be really handy to them. Personally, when I'm doing panoramics, I like to shoot them in a vertical orientation anyway. So that's just making it really handy. I can see all the time. And if I do a really sort of low dramatic panoramic, I'm really excited to see how that works with this system. What about you, Mark?
Well, my personal favourite is also the focus lever, but there are other features as well. So the locking buttons, for example, these are great. So if I'm shooting landscapes, I tend to just lock my ISO in 200. That's now can't be moved accidentally. Or if I know that I'm going to be adjusting it, I can leave it unlocked and just change as and when I need. You can do exactly the same on the shutter speed. So whether you want to just leave it in auto or whether you want to select a shutter speed, you know, if you want to lock it in auto, that's fine. You can't accidentally move that. If you want to lock it to whatever your flash sync speed is, you can do that as well. So it sort of helps with just not accidentally missing an exposure because you accidentally hit a dial. The dials are slightly bigger as well than the X-T1, which is not a major thing, but they are just slightly easier to use as a result. Love the exposure compensation. So again, this is another one from the X Pro 2. So you now have 3 stops of exposure compensation in either direction. And depending on what I'm shooting, if I'm shooting kind of like documentary or social stuff like my children, etc., this is pretty much what I literally ride the exposure compensation dial all the way. And I use the C mode as well, which then allows you to use the wheel on the front. That gives you up to 5 stops of exposure compensation. So when it's a very, very bright light or contrasty scene, you can still control your image as well as you can very, very quickly. The last thing on the top plate that's gone is the old movie record button has now disappeared, and that's actually been replaced by the drive dial. So you actually select your movie mode on the drive dial instead. And when it's in movie mode, the shutter button will actually start and stop movie recording.
One of the things that we have as well that we haven't mentioned in much detail is the card slots.
Yep.
So
Yes, dual card slot. Again, this can be customized, so you can choose how you use these card slots. So they're both UHS 2. You can have them write to one card, and once it's full, write to the next card, or you can have them shoot a fully redundant copy of both the RAW and the JPEG to both cards, which is a request that we've had from a lot of wedding photographers. Or you could do it how I do it, and I actually shoot my JPEGs to one and my RAW files to the other. And the only reason I do that is because I never ever take RAW files out of the camera, really. If I want to do something with them, I tend to do all the post-processing in the camera, but I've got the RAW file still to do that. And it's actually the JPEG card that I actually take out and then actually use.
And then really, I'm going to use your camera here to demonstrate this. The last thing that I find really, really handy, and it seems like a small thing, but it's a big thing, the grip. You know, if you're like me and you don't like to use neck straps all day long, shoulder straps or whatnot, you really just want a really good, solid grip. Especially with the slightly larger lenses, it just gives you more confidence that you're not going to drop them. Don't want to drop them. It just makes it feel more professional. It feels more enjoyable. I think that's what they've really done. Actually, is they've taken the system and they've gone, you know what? It's better if these are like this, and it feels better if it's like this. And what about those guys? Oh, we'll do this. You know, they've really thought about every little element that pieces together to make a better system. It's not one change; it's lots of little things. And you know, if you get your hands on one of these, just sort of pull buttons, move the screen around, and see for yourself just how different it is.
So what is boost mode?
Boost mode.
Well, boost mode is known as high performance mode in most of our cameras. But for the X-T2, it does a lot more. So we just wanted to go through each of the features that it actually improves. So first off, if you're only using the camera, you go into the setup menu, into power, and there's an option called performance, and you can choose between boost or normal. So when you put in normal mode, the EVF is 60 frames a second. So just to put it in context, the EVF on the X-T1 is 54 frames a second, and that's very smooth. But when you select boost mode, that becomes 100 frames a second, which is very, very smooth image. The other thing that it does is it improves the maximum autofocus speed. So again, in normal mode, you have 0.08 seconds as the maximum speed for autofocus. Select boost mode and it's now 0.06 seconds. So that is a 25% improvement. So those are the improvements that you get just on the body, but there are more improvements when you add the grip.
Yeah, so as Mark says, it does all of what he just said, but also when the grip is attached and you've switched from normal to boost, you will find that the shooting interval has got shorter basically. So when you're taking a picture, you're saving a picture, it's ready to take another picture quicker. The blackout time, so the time between shots, if you're maybe doing continuous shooting, that's significantly reduced. The shutter lag is reduced as well. And then probably the most important feature is that the continuous shooting goes from 8 frames per second on just the body to 11 frames per second with the boost mode for a mechanical shutter.
And not only does the grip increase the performance, but it does give you a few other benefits. Obviously, we mentioned before the focus lever while you're in portrait orientation, but it also holds an additional 2 batteries. So on top of the one in the camera, you've got 2 now in the grip, and both of those batteries can be charged in the grip using the supplied 9-volt mains adapter. And as an extra bonus, you can also charge the camera that's inside, the battery that's in the camera using USB. So you get roughly 1,000 frames from those 3 batteries now. So if you're a current X-T1 user and you're thinking about upgrading to the X-T2, well, just as a quick recap, higher resolution, vertical tilting screen, additional power grip that gives you even more performance upgrades, dual card slot, usability and operability improvements. This camera has got a lot, so you should really, really give this some very, very careful consideration.
And if you're looking between the X Pro 2 and the X-T2, we haven't really designed them to compete with each other. The question is which one's right for you, and it's really a case of, do you love the rangefinder style and the optical viewfinder, the reportage, documentary, all that street photography? It fits that really, really well. The small prime lenses is a beautiful, discrete system. If you go for the X-T2, it feels a little bit better with the longer lenses. If you want that extra performance in terms of video capability and AF performance, this just takes that just a little bit further. So it's a case of finding the one that fits your style rather than one that's better than the other.
Well, we hope you found this video helpful and it's helped explain the product. Until next time, we've been the Foodie Guys.